So anyways, yeah, I'm Steve Halton. How you doing? I'm actually a farmer, so I mean I don't want you to think I'm just because I'm president and CEO of the company that I'm some bigwig. I actually wanted to grow hemp so I could, I don't know, I just want to jump on it. So in 2017 I went for the application. And I realized pretty quick that it was more important to create that market than it was to actually grow the stuff. Bear with me, I threw this thing together pretty quick, just because I suck at public speaking. All right, so a lot of times people ask me what cultivar they should grow, you know, and I know that like big companies like Sunstrand, they'll say you have to grow this cultivar. This is what we want to process. And honestly, my next slide, I will cover that. So these are the basic questions you want to ask yourself when you're getting into the whole hemp thing. Has anyone grown hemp in this room yet? Is anyone licensed to grow hemp? What are you planning on doing? CBD or grain and fiber? CBD, yeah, the cash cow. That's good. That's what I like to hear. I mean, personal opinion, I feel like grain and fiber is a little bit more sustainable, but that's just an opinion. You know, I mean, don't quote me on that. Well, whatever. So a lot of times people want to get into grain and fiber, and you know, they say, well, what should I grow? What would work best? And I mean, being a farmer, I hate anyone that's going to tell me what I should or shouldn't grow on my property. But the biggest thing is knowing what equipment that you have. The biggest problem that I saw in the last growing season was a lot of people wanted to grow grain or a dual purpose, and they had a hard time finding a combine when it was harvesting time. So I had a lot of growers that were calling me in tears because their crop was blowing off the plant because the seed heads had opened up. That comes into, you know, what equipment your neighbors have. I don't want you to blow up all of your local farmers and saying, hey, you know, can I steal your combine for a little while, because it's really not a good idea. Honestly, having the right stuff would be better for you, like you know, the fiber harvesting equipment and whatnot would be better to have yourself. And then obviously the processors that are within the proper radius. I know a lot of people think, well, all right, how about this? How many people have watched YouTube videos about hemp? Okay, I figured there'd be a lot of people. Don't believe everything you see on YouTube, because it's not real, especially in New York State. So a lot of times they say you want to find a processor within 50 miles. That might be correct for fiber, but I got to say for grain, I mean, like I said, I'll truck it all across the state. You know, it's once you get into the logistics where you can start to lose money either on your end or the processor's end. So prepping your fields is really important. I know a lot of farmers, they'll go through and spray that, was it Glycol, you know, the Roundup to kill the fields. There's a lot of studies that say that you cannot grow grain or fiber right after a hay field. I'm on the fence about that one. I don't entirely agree with that, because hemp is really high, it has a really high nitrogen and potassium needs, and red clover is one of the few legumes that will actually pull nitrogen out of the air and put it back into the soil. So I kind of think that following a good hay field, I mean, I'm always an advocate for proper crop rotation as far as hemp goes. And I mean, again, it's just an opinion, and from my experience, I think that a hay field is a good follow-up. But I'm a firm believer in not spraying. I mean, if you can get in and plant your crop pretty quickly after you plow it, you shouldn't have any problem. The biggest thing is competition, because weeds grow just as fast as hemp do. So if you can get your hemp to germinate faster than the weeds will, then you'll have a good hemp harvest. You know, the tilling equipment, I've had really good luck with the moldboard plows, just to roll the soil over. I don't really think that the rippers or whatnot are great, because you're not breaking up the other plants that were there before. And well, when to plant, I think we already touched base on that one before me. Sorry, I'm talking a little faster than I should, so 45 minutes is probably a bit much for me. Planting techniques. So I've had a lot of good luck with the grain drill. It's usually set at 7.5 inches on the spacing, about 3/4 inch depth. And like I said, I have a pretty good luck with that. I have had a few people that have used the broadcast seeders. It works. I wouldn't recommend it, but it does work. well, I'll show you a picture in a little while, but I had a field, the broadcast seeder would do about a 40-foot swath, and we'd have 40 feet of hemp and 40 feet of weeds, and then 40 feet of hemp and 40 feet of weeds. So it was a fun process, but the grain drill seems to work really, really well as far as planting the stuff. And then, like I said, it does have very high potassium and nitrogen needs. I use a chemical sprayer. I use an all-natural plant-based fertilizer for it that will be soaked in through the leaves of the plant versus stuff that gets sprayed onto the soil. I want to make sure that all of those nutrients actually go into the hemp so I can get a higher yield out of it. I mean, yield is really, really important with this, especially if you're trying to make any sort of a profit. So this was one of my fields from 2017. You can kind of see on the picture on the right, the seed heads are opening up, so you can see that the grain's starting to get ready to come out, so you can harvest it a lot easier. Unfortunately, it was about a week later that we had that windstorm last year, where it was like 60-mile-an-hour winds, and it was just hemp seeds as far as the eye can see, which actually sucks because I think you touched base on the Monsanto stuff, right? Didn't somebody said something about the seeds? So all of the seeds that are out there for hemp are actually patented. So like my fields right now, they're starting to germinate from the hemp that blew down from that windstorm. And you have to go through and spray that and kill it because you legally cannot let that stuff grow, which I don't agree with, but that's because that cultivar is patented. So the company that right, yeah. I mean, every cultivar that's grown in the United States is patented by somebody. That's why it's so hard to have all of these seeds. I don't know. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff, and the hemp industry is frustrating. I'm not trying to scare anyone away. I just want you to know what you're in for. So the harvesting, I did have someone harvest. Actually, I had 4 growers harvest with a traditional combine. It's difficult. It does take a lot of modifications. Honestly, you could probably take some pool noodles and PVC pipe and just create your own guards, and it'll actually cover a lot of the stuff. There are proper heads that are better for harvesting the grain. The draper heads. I don't know. Is everybody in here in the agricultural industry? Is everybody farming right now or just planning on, well, you guys are heavy hitters, huh? So a draper head, it's almost like a conveyor belt. So instead of having an auger that would feed the grain through, the auger gets wrapped, all the hemp gets wrapped up inside of it. And well, you already touched base on the yields. I've never actually seen one of these machines in operation, and I'd really love to. I know that's primarily used in Canada. So there we go. So this was the first time that I got to harvest hemp. This was planted late. I think it was the 2017 season. It was really wet, so we didn't get to plant until later on. I used my disbine. There's 2 different types of conditioning methods that are in disbines. There's a roll-a-bar where the roller crimper to where it'll roll the hemp through. That's probably the most commonly used type of conditioning system that's used for hay. But mine, fortunately, was flails, so it worked a lot better. I had one grower that tried to harvest with the roller conditioners. They had a big wad of hemp that was in between those rollers, and it took an F350 to pull it out. It was pretty nasty. Since this crop was planted late, you can see it's not very tall. It's actually USO 31. That's a grain variety. It didn't mature. The farmer said, hey, if you cut it, you can take it. So I jumped right on that opportunity. So on the right is some of the fiber that was cut out of that field. On the left is actually CBD stalks. I know you had mentioned about CBD. I do not process CBD, but I am one of the few processors that does work with CBD waste, not just in New York State, but in the country. So anyone that does get into the CBD industry, please get a hold of me. Either your post-extraction biomass or the stalks. I do have a service that removes them. So I did a little bit of tests on winter retting with the CBD stalks. I know it's kind of a blurry picture and it doesn't do very much justice. But the stalk on the top was freshly cut, and then the stuff on the bottom, you can see the fiber starting to pull off of the stalk. So that was, I think that was 48 days in the winter, you know, so it's not like it was the field retting of 28 to 41 days. But you know, that's really the ideal. You want to see that as far as a processor goes, because that gives you a higher quality product that's more valuable. There we go. So yeah, since that stuff was harvested late, I got to enjoy baling hemp in the snow, which was awesome. But I'm very proud of that because that's my first hemp bale. That was exciting. So hemp bales usually, I mean, as far as my processing facility, I like the round bales. I generally go for a high grade fiber. There's a high grade and a low grade fiber. The dual purpose is generally a low grade fiber, and the only reason it's a low grade is because it's a shorter plant, so then you don't get the long strings that would be used for like textiles. So the high end fiber, which is that 10 to 12 foot tall stuff, I mean, I prefer that, but I'll take it either way. But the round bales are generally about 700 pounds, so you definitely want to use the silage baler, which is what that one is. I know there are some people that use the large square balers. I have not had the opportunity to have anyone use this large square baler for me, but like I said, for my operation, with the round baler, you're taking those stalks and wrapping around each other almost like a ball of yarn, so then those lengths stay nice and long. If you get into a large square baler, they're usually about 3 to 4 feet, so then you're taking that and wadding it up, and it's just not a good end product in my eyes. I do have a couple of people that are going to grow for that, or grow and do a large square baler. So there are some of the hemp bales. They're a net wrap. I'll take them either way, either a net wrap. I mean, people ask how it would be better to transport and bale. The net wrap does hold well together, but I just did extra twine on mine, and they held together really, really well.
And what moisture content do you bale?
That's a good question. So it kind of whatever Mother Nature will let you. I mean, it is similar to hay, to where you do want to have like the 12% moisture content. It can be baled a little bit higher, but so does everyone know what the retting process is? Like what the actual action that's going on as far as the retting process? So anyways, what retting is a Dutch word for rot, and what it is bacteria that's getting inside of the stalks and separating that the hurd from the fiber. Boy, I forgot where I was going on that one, but I'm sorry, what was your, the retting, right, yeah, well, I don't know, I forgot.
Moisture content.
Moisture content, I'm sorry. Like I said, not the greatest public speaker. I'm more of a meet and greet kind of guy, hey, welcome to the facility. You don't want, so if you go at a higher moisture content when you bale, you're going to start to get actual mold instead of like the retting bacteria that's in there. Depending on what the end product is. I mean, really you want to talk to a processor about what they want, so then you can go in and make a proper product that'll work well for them. I mean, like I have a company in Albany that's making hemp paper out of the fiber. So that's going to be bleached anyways, so having something that does have black spots from a little bit of mold, it won't hurt it. But going into a textile market, you want to make sure that it's a nice high quality fiber so you don't have any mold that's in there or discoloration.
So is the retting agent, is that aerobic or anaerobic organism?
Oof. That's a good.
What I'm talking about, can you wrap these bales with plastic and like balers?
There are people that want to do that, and I honestly was going for a grant last year to see what the effects would be for wrapping, because I do wrap some of the hay. As far as I know, you don't want to trap that moisture in there, so you do want it to be able to breathe and let it actually dry out, because once the bales are baled, I put them in dry storage. Another thing I want to do is try to wrap them in that black plastic, which actually lets moisture out and keeps sunlight out, or lets the bale breathe but keeps moisture out as well. So I don't know, all in due time, I guess. It takes money. Yes, sir.
How long do you have those bales in storage before you normally ship them somewhere?
Well, it depends on the season. So like I said, last year was a rough season. So I had some people that harvested just straight fiber crops, and they cut their hemp in July, baled in late August probably. I usually try to pick up the bales as quickly as possible just to get them out of the farmer's hands. I can process them pretty quickly, but then there's also the winter retting process. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. It's where you can actually leave the hemp standing. So this year was a good, or last year was a good year for the winter retting process because since all that grain did not get harvested, a lot of times they let the crop stand. They're now going through and mowing and baling all of that stuff, but you don't have to go through that 28 to 41 days because it's already been retted throughout the winter. So it's just a cut, rake, and bale.
So they went ahead and took the grain off last fall?
You can do that, but what happened is I had contracts with 13 growers. I actually had 4 that harvested, and it was just because of the windstorms or not being able to find equipment to harvest. You know, I mean, you got to think when hemp's being harvested, there's other crops that are being harvested at the same time. So that's why it's kind of important to make sure that you have a combine to harvest it. So, you know, that farmer's crops were more important than my grower's hemp harvest, you know. So it was by accident that they're practicing the winter retting process. But I mean, it works out because it's not like it's a complete loss. You know, that fiber is still standing. They can still get a profit off of that fiber.
They harvested the grain?
You can do that. No, this stuff did not.
Oh, they didn't harvest anything at all?
No, they couldn't get a combine or it was too wet. I mean, I think, let's see, I had a tractor that was stuck in a field for about 6 weeks. So it started raining in late August last year, and I don't think it stopped until almost October. So at that point, the seed heads had already opened up, and the seeds or grain had dropped down to the ground. So there was no point in actually going through and harvesting it. I do know a couple of guys that started to go into their fields with a combine, and it just wasn't profitable. I mean, it wasn't covering their fuel costs as far as what the yield was per acre. So, but it was just, you know, every year is a learning curve, I guess. So. Yeah, so there's a picture of the stalk. You have the herd that's in the center, and then the bast fiber, which is what the retting process will release, that bast fiber that's around the outside of the stalk. I'm sorry that's a little blurry. Geez, I keep going back and forth. Oops. So there's some of my bales in my facility. That beautiful blue machine in the background is a decorticator. Is anyone planning on getting into processing that's in the... Oh, you're double threat too, aren't you? No, it's good. That's important. It's important. I'm not... competition breeds business, and it's good. It's very good. So you definitely want to find a decorticator. I have some good contacts. So a decorticator will separate that fiber from the herd. It's a very... It sounds like a really complex machine. It's not. I have a YouTube channel. If you check out the channel, I actually have the video of the first time firing it up, and I have all of the safety panels taken off. Don't tell OSHA, you know. But it was just to show how the machine works. It's kind of interesting. There's you can't really see it on this picture, but the next one you will. So basically, the hemp is fed through the top of the machine, and then you can see there's a little spot below. That's where the fiber will actually come out, and the herd comes out the back. There's that the wheel on the end. You can see some of the fiber that came out of the machine, and then the herd is on the right hand side. Sorry, it was a bit of an action video or action picture. My employee was having so much fun feeding the machine, it didn't slow down enough for me to take a good quality picture. Her name is Proud Mary, because I want that river wheel to keep on turning. I love her. We nickname all the machines. So another thing that I do is pressing the oil. Yeah, I love that. You know, that's one of my favorite. So you guys asked about animal feed, right? That was, and actually one of the things, even on my website, where I was going to do research. I went for a SARE grant, I think it was. And to try to do my own research, because I have beefers. I actually did feed some of the hemp seed cake to some of my animals, and I had a lot of really good effects out of it, because the seed cake has really high protein and fiber content. So I usually butchered my animals at about 20 months. I had a couple that I butchered at 14 months, but I fed the hemp seed cake for 4 weeks to them during the finishing period, and their hanging weight was actually the same as the ones that were butchered at 20 months versus the 14 months. So it was really exciting. And then it was really amusing because it was almost like a scene from Cinderella, because all the birds in the area loved the hemp so much, so they would hear it when I would dump it in the grain trough, and it was just like overwhelmed with all the birds trying to fight the cows for the seed cake. And then I have some of my products that I produce. So I do a hemp seed oil. Again, sorry, really blurry picture. A lot of the stuff's on my website or Facebook page. I do a topical oil. I really don't want to get into a food grade product, so I know that moisture content was, like drying the grain and whatnot was important. As far as my products go, it's not as important, because once you get into a topical or cosmetic grade oil, it's actually good for the oil to turn rancid. So having that bacteria in there, you get a higher quality product for a topical oil versus a food grade oil. Food grade oil, you want to keep the grain at 8%. The biggest problem that my growers had was actually cleaning the grain. There's a lot of grain cleaners out there, but honestly, Canada has really niched that market as far as the grain cleaners go. I'm ordering one probably next week.
Would that oil be like what Dr. Bronner's oil soap would use?
Yes, yep. Actually, I have 2 soap manufacturers that are making soap out of our oil. We also have chapstick, bath bombs, lotions, all sorts of fun stuff that's been coming out. And then we also have a full line of other oil products that'll be coming out. I don't want to say too much, but follow us on Facebook, right? So, so. Biochar, that was one of the things that you had touched base on. And I've been really excited to start doing trials in biochar. I was actually working with a friend of mine in a sugar shack making maple syrup, and had an ingenious idea for a stove to make biochar, so we made one, and I actually wound up building 7 of them. Does everyone know what biochar is? I know that we had the excerpt on there, and actually we're working on doing research with those poo lagoons. Was it the ponds where the dairy farms where they dump all the manure? I guess the biochar will actually cut down on the gases that are released, and cut down on the smell and all that fun stuff. So I've been working with SUNY Morrisville and a couple of other places with that.
Would inoculate the biochar.
Right, yeah, that would activate it. Yep. So heat pellets. Actually, we're the first company in the United States to start making hemp heat pellets. We also make a animal bedding that's a pelletized bedding. The heat pellets has been a lot of fun. It took a long time to fine-tune that without adding a lot of the binding agents, because normal typical heat pellets have a lot of binders and whatnot in it. So I wanted to keep it as natural and just hemp as I could. The BTUs are comparable to the wood counterparts, and there's less ash, and they burn completely. So I don't know if you have a pellet stove, there's a thing called plinkers. So it's when the pellet doesn't burn completely. The hemp actually burns entirely, and since there's less ash, you can burn a little bit more and clean your stoves. And the bedding, it's antimicrobial, antibacterial, absorbs more. Hemp is the wonder thing, right?
What part of the plant are you using for this?
It's normally proprietary, but I guess since I put it out there. For the heat pellets, I'm using just the hurd, so they'd be the center of the stalk, and the bedding is the entire stalk. So, and then someone called me out on this product, which is our bird seed. We started making a hemp bird seed just because it is so high in the amino acids, high in protein. Songbirds love it. They're not singing Grateful Dead or anything, but it's. Just after seeing all the birds that were going crazy with the seed cake, it just seemed like a good idea. So, and that's in stores now. And then there's all my contact information. You can check out the website. I do a toll-free number, 833-24/7-HEMP. It took a lot to be able to get that phone number. That was email information at CNYHempProcessing.com, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, like I said, on YouTube. My oldest son's really mad at me because I have more subscribers than him. So, and that's really all I got. I know it was hit about a half hour instead of 45 minutes. Is there any questions? Yes. Yeah.
Where are you killing
Oh, sorry.
hemp wood? You said it was his pan.
What was that?
What are you killing the hemp with? Is it Roundup or, that you can't, it's from the grown or
Right. Yeah, no, it would be just typical Roundup that they use to kill it. So I try to just till it under and wish for the best, but it's not really the greatest practice. She was right ahead of you. What?
I'm gonna come and visit you.
Okay, yeah, no, that's great. We're actually in the middle of a expansion, so. Oh boy, I'll look forward to that. Is it made out of hemp?
It should be.
It should be, it will be.
I'm trying to get to that point.
Yeah, our current facility is right next to a injection mold plastic facility, and they want us to start making a hemp plastic to start doing the Yeti coolers and whatnot. That's what they make, so.
Have you had any issues with like drift from other spraying like soybeans or corn?
No.
On yours?
No, I haven't had any issues with that. But actually, that did remind me about the whole pollen blowing around from like the CBD and everything else, because everyone in the neighborhood that decides to grow illegal marijuana is mad at me because, hemp is male and female to grow. So it's actually, if it's a prevailing wind, I've seen 3 miles as far as the cross pollination with that.
what about hempcrete?
Oh, that's a fun one. Yeah, hempcrete. I actually have a couple of people that are going to start doing hempcrete. That's one of the primary sources that I sell my hemp herd to is for manufacturing hempcrete. We're working on making the first hempcrete house in New York State. I'm sure that there's a lot of other people that want to make a hempcrete building or whatnot. So I mean, I don't know. Have you done any tests with hempcrete or?
No, but I've done a lot of research and reading and looking at the architectural potential of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean
And
it's.
as one of the products that might be viable here in the southern tier, either the blocks or just the raw materials or the insulation
Yeah.
vats of,
Yeah, the non-woven mats.
yeah.
See, I thought about doing that with the fiber instead of the herd, doing a non-woven mat out of the fiber to do, especially because hemp is actually fire retardant and it has that antimicrobial and antibacterial tendencies. So really, you'd have a healthier insulation, a healthier home.
It's just a wonder plant, isn't it?
50,000 uses and counting, right? So, in the back, yes.
I have a few, I'm trying to be as organic also.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is like, insects. I'm affiliated with Young Women's Essential Oil, so they use essential oils for pests.
Mm-hmm.
They hand weed, but it looks like this type of crop really crowds out a lot. So you, like you said, get it planted fast after. Do you use anything in particular for insects?
Nope, I have not had any problems with insects in any of the fields that I have grown or that any of my affiliates have grown. So as far as the grain and fiber end.
Okay, and then I was wondering, deer, other animals, people, what do you do for security, fencing?
People, that's the biggest problem. I can't tell you how many times cops have busted kids out of my fields and things like that. Trying to steal them, that's pretty tough. I mean, as far as security goes, just letting local law enforcement know that the field is there is really important. One of my concerns would be if kids went out and tried to plant their stuff out in one of my fields and a cross-pollination, then it would test hot, so then you can't harvest it. So it'd be out.
Signs up that say you will not get high from this.
It doesn't matter.
I never thought of the reverse.
Right. Yeah, no, it really doesn't matter. Yeah, no, I live in a small town, and I can't believe how many selfies of look at what's going on in my hometown was coming up on Facebook. So, yeah, that was fun. I mean, well, yeah, no, I actually wound up taking my own because I was like, oh, whatever, it's my field. So,
Where are you located?
I'm just south of Syracuse, so I don't want to say too much. That's like the toll-free number. I don't. I get blown up, especially like a cell phone. So, yes.
You talk about harvesting seed with just a regular combine.
Yeah.
Does the female flower sticky? Does it mess up the combine and gum it up? Or?
I mean, So CBD is going to have like those, or marijuana is going to have those crystals or the terpenes or whatnot. I mean, that's really where a lot of the stickiness comes from. Being a grain variety, there you don't have that. No, you don't have that kind of a problem. One thing I didn't touch base on though, doing a regular combine, you don't want to drop the head all the way. So you want to keep it up about 4 feet just so you can cut the top off, and then you can go back later with a sickle bar mower, or you could do winter retting, you know, just cut it in the spring. Count on that cash cow in the morning or in the spring. So, yes.
You said you have no problems with insects. What about the white mold and the gray mold? Have you had problems there?
Not with a grain or fiber variety. I have not seen any issues. Oh, and you'd mentioned about deer. The deer just love to bed in it. They don't eat it. So, I did think about trying to make a deer feed. I'm a hunter as well. But, you know, I didn't want him to get like a crazy rack, you know, 30-point buck or something. And so, yeah, I know we'd all love to get that 30-point buck. Is that it?
Woodchucks. Are woodchucks a problem when the plant's small?
They can be, yeah. That is a bit of a headache. 22, no, I mean, have a heart trap. I'm sorry, have a heart trap. That's probably the best way. Relocation, you know. But they do, I mean, it's a great place for them to hide, and they do love going out there. So, and especially when you start getting into harvesting, you find every single one of those holes. It's just like hay fields.
Do you, in your experience, see this as a viable crop in rotation with other?
That's one of the things that I'm an advocate for. Most of the farms that I deal with, like I said, last year I had contracts with 13 farmers. This year I have 27. Almost every single one of them are dairy farmers, and I advocate a proper crop rotation just to supplement the poor milk prices. Since I was a farmer first, I adjust all of my prices as far as so they can make a profit, and so I can make a profit, or so I can make a profit and so they can make a profit. So I know when I first got into the industry and I had my first business plan, I was quoted, it was like $10 a ton for a low grade fiber. So I did all my business models around that, and then $10 a ton doesn't even cover your seeding costs, much less your time and fertilizer that goes into it. So, you know, there's, I mean, I talked about rotating after a hay field. It can be tough because you really want to go through and plow and plant immediately, you know, so that hemp has a faster germination, you know, than the weed seeds. I mean, maybe going after corn or whatnot might be a little bit easier, but I don't know. I just feel bad for all the dairy farmers. I mean, my family farm is an old dairy farm that went out of business, so it's hard seeing some of these dairy farms going out because of crappy milk prices. Yeah.
You tried no-tilling it or no?
I know that SUNY Morrisville does the no-till, and they've had pretty good luck, but they had to spray, you know, and I'm not a huge fan of spraying. You know, again, opinion, you know, it's. I'd rather not put chemicals on my fields. My farm is not an organic farm. It probably could be, but I just don't like putting chemicals down. So, yes, sir.
How long have you been doing this now, actually processing stuff? When did you first get started? 5 years ago?
No, I got my license in 2017. I mean, I've been doing hemp research for many years. But I had my official open date this year. So I did some processing, but my new facility was just opened in January. And we're already expanding. Hopefully. Yes?
So as a processor in a room full of potential growers,
Mhm.
what's your best piece of advice for them as they're going out trying to find a market?
Yeah, talk to your processor first. Make sure you know what they want, and then you go from there. Some of my growers say that hemp is a naughty 4-letter word. There's definitely a lot of F-bombs that come out when you're harvesting, and it's so if I go out to the bar or something like that, and then I have someone that sits down next to me and they're like, "Hey, you're that hemp guy, you know? I have 700 acres and I'd love to grow hemp." I usually tell people 20 to 30 acres max starting out, get your feet wet, don't dive in, do 100 and some odd acres because you're gonna hate it. you know, so just make sure you know what your processor wants, and then start out small and go from there. That'd probably be the best advice. Otherwise, you're just going to hate it and never do it again.
Do you offer contracts for growers?
Yes, yes, I do. Right now, if anyone wants to email me, I will give them a letter of intent, knowing, you know, that way knowing that I will be more than interested to purchase your harvest. The hard thing is there isn't a lot of contracts out there, so it's not like there's templates for hemp. Even though hemp is similar to other crops, it's not like every other crop.